The Book of Daniel, Chapter 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well-favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat, and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat, and as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this matter, and proved to them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat, and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar, and the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king, and in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. And Daniel continued even unto the 1st year of King Cyrus. Daniel 2. And in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. And the king commanded to call the magicians, and the astrologers, and the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans, for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, The thing is gone from me. If ye will not make known unto me the dream with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill. But if ye show the dream, and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream, and the interpretation thereof. They answered again and said, Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. The king answered and said, I know of certainty that ye would gain the time, because ye see the thing is gone from me. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you. For ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the time be changed. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation thereof. The Chaldeans answered before the king, and said, There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asked such things at any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can show it before the king, except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. This cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. The decree went forth that the wise men should be slain. They sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, Why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. And Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, and that he would show the king the interpretation. And Daniel went to his house, and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they would desire mercies of the God of heaven concerning the secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. And Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of God for ever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings, and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, who hast given me wisdom and might, and hast made known unto me now what we desired of thee. For thou hast now made known unto us the king's matter. Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah, that will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, Art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king, and said, The secret which the king hath demanded, cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, show unto the king? There is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream, and the visions of thy head upon thy bed, are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter. And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. As for me, the secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron, and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream. and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, but the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beast of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, forasmuch as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Forasmuch as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. And the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face, and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel, and said, Of a truth it is that your God is a God of gods, and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king.
I am listening to the book of Daniel. I know you guys have heard the book of Daniel plenty of times. For example, many of you know why Daniel was placed where he was placed. Or then again, maybe you do not. If you are familiar with the book of Daniel, you know about the kingdom of Babylon. Why would God send Daniel to Babylon? Of all the places Daniel could have been, God sent him to Babylon. Daniel went to a king who was a strong king, a king who was responsible for the death of many people. He was ruthless, mechanical, driven by the law, powerful, and he too was put in his position, as awful as he was. In fact, the slaughter of a lot of God's children, King Nebuchadnezzar was directly responsible for. King Nebuchadnezzar and his kingdom. Daniel in King Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom is your story. Because it is your story from chapters 1 through 3 or 4, possibly 5. It gives you some reasons why you're here. Many of you right now, no doubt, feeling some type of stress. Sometimes you wonder why you're here in the first place. The Lord put you in the middle of a kingdom full of problems, full of the law, the rule of law, which, by the way, that standard of the rule of law is established by King Nebuchadnezzar. Why did God favor King Nebuchadnezzar? He was a ruthless tyrant. I'll tell you why. King Nebuchadnezzar was all about kingdom business, not God's kingdom, his own kingdom. If you notice, during the time when King Nebuchadnezzar had his dream, he pulled his wise people together, his astrologers, and he said, "Tell me about the dream." They said, "Well, tell us the dream and we'll interpret the dream for you." This next part gives you insight to King Nebuchadnezzar. He said, "No, because if I tell you the dream, you're going to make up something. You could tell me anything, and that will be the interpretation." He said, "No, I want the truth." So immediately, we can establish that King Nebuchadnezzar did not play games. He didn't entertain those who played games. He wanted the truth, always. You'll notice that about him. He was a tyrant, yes. He was ruthless, yes. He was not part of God's kingdom. But he did not like lies. Did you notice? God uses this later as an example of the standards of the kingdom we're in. Because it is the Father who disclosed King Nebuchadnezzar about the kingdoms on the earth, how there would only be 4. When Babylon was in power during the time of Daniel, Babylon ruled everywhere. You'll see that too. And don't worry, I'm going to take my time and go through this. But the kingdom of Babylon was essentially the entire earth. God said, wherever men would be, animals would graze, fish would swim, birds would fly. Babylon had rule over the earth. God gave Babylon dominion over the entirety of the earth. And to this very day, we operate in a base Babylonian system, period, where the rule of law binds everybody to follow it. But why didn't God put Daniel in a pasture somewhere? Why didn't he send him somewhere else where Daniel could grow up, spread the word, not have these oppressive things around him? You'll quickly find out that God does not play games, and he grants is needed in everything he does is purposed. In fact, everything he does holds high purpose. He isn't quite the comedian a lot of people make him out to be. Daniel was sent to Babylon right in the middle of a hornet's nest. Daniel was tried plenty of times. Daniel lost sleep in that kingdom, but Daniel made a difference in the world because of that kingdom, just like you. You were put in the middle of the place you're making a difference in. You're put smack dab in the middle of a hornet's nest. You want to be in something like the kingdom of God. You do everything you can to escape the world and to escape worldly things, to get around the saints and have fellowship. That's when you smile. But when you go back into the world, it's hard. The Lord put you there on purpose. These first chapters of the book of Daniel, I'll play them again. But I would like you to open to all of you who are listening. I can't see who's listening, but all of you who are listening. I'm going to kind of leave this open for a while. But all of you listening, I want you to understand your birth, your presence in this world, and where you are. Your confirmation, what comes out of your mouth concerning everything around you. It is the exact same situation as the book of Daniel. In fact, if we were to go all throughout the book of Daniel, this book represents you so closely. It's eerie. Point by point. You're going to notice immediately. Daniel had a calling in his life when he was young. Daniel desired the living God, but Daniel was thrust in a kingdom he did not choose for himself, just like you didn't choose. You didn't choose to be born in the country you were born in. You were put there, and there's high purpose to your life. High purpose. You'll also notice God never refers to King Nebuchadnezzar as Satan. Not once. Not in the beginning. Because King Nebuchadnezzar was not Satan in the beginning. And he was a tyrant and he was ruthless. But he had qualities. God knew exactly what he was doing. And do you not know, the standard in the book of Daniel is this: the kingdoms that were established in the book of Daniel, they're here right now. The base of all kingdoms of this earth, they originate in the book of Daniel. As God said, they originate. As I play this again, when you learn that Daniel initially began his life in Babylon with no compromises, you're going to see your own life, how you were thrust in a job you didn't want. The world picked a job for you, a place for you. You didn't understand that at first. Now it's time to have understanding. But that Daniel would not grow by the food of the kingdom or the king, but he stayed upon his ways, instilled it in him. So he stayed with the ways of the Lord. By him doing that, you know what the king did? The king always made comparisons. So did everybody else. You're thrust in this world, and the world is seeing what works and what does not. The first difference Daniel made was when he was healthier than all those who ate of the king's meat. And the king took away their portion because he made adjustments to better his kingdom based upon what he saw. Did he know God at this time? No, he did not. But through Daniel, God was already changing the entirety of the kingdom of Babylon. God put Daniel there on purpose in everything he endured. So have you. It's a mirror image of you. But you, in this day and age, many of you have seen no purpose in your life. That's a flaw. That's because we listen to the wrong sources. The Lord tells us things. These things are revealed. They are discovered. Discover it. See the truth of it. See, because I know that once you see the truth, no one can discourage you again. So long as you see many things and you can choose, you can always choose the wrong thing. But something different is happening during the days we live in. You'll see it too. As darkness escalates, as iniquity rises, so will the ability for you to walk much, much closer to your Father in heaven through Christ Jesus. The relationship will flourish and power will be demonstrated in your life to the world. A commitment, initially just a simple understanding. That's all it takes, and your eyes will be opened. So as I play it again, remember your own life, not somebody else's. Remember yours. Listen to the book of Daniel. Relate it to your life and see if it's not your life indeed. Because once that's established, you're really going to love the middle and the end. For the most part, we look at prophecies in the book of Daniel. How many of you looked at your own life in comparison to the book of Daniel? There's promise in your life. Your story is not finished yet. Satan is the only one that would ever tell you that your story is done, that your life is going to get worse and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Whatever your problem is, your addiction or your habits, he wants you to believe that's going to take you out. And, you're never going to get rid of that. All those are lies. We cannot free ourselves from bondage. That's why the Lord already promised he will break the chains. He will, not us. You will witness the breaking. He will have you in a certain position when those chains break. Because when they break, he'll demonstrate that and do that for edification of those who trust the gospel, as a witness to those who stand against it. It'll be a fearful sign to those who have chosen a foolish path. It'll add faith upon faith to those who are trying and reaching. It'll cause a chain of events that'll quickly grow out of control. He does not do this by a clock. As you understand, so will he do this in your life.